So my how tall is the Huntress video got me thinking. Is there any benefit to picking a taller killer over a shorter one? We already know the benefits of picking a shorter killer, being much harder to flashlight save against because there's more objects you can hide behind, and being shorter in general making it easier to mind game, especially with somebody as the Pig or Ghostface who can crouch, and being that short makes it essentially impossible to mind game. And then now we have Chucky, who's the shortest, and good luck looping that guy for more than like 30 seconds. But as seen from our Killer Heights video, you can see that the Huntress is clearly over 2 feet taller than the Pig, Anna being 7'7" and the Pig being 5'7". But that got me thinking, is the POV camera 2 feet higher? Is it easier for survivors to hit flashy saves on taller killers? Of course, it's much easier to loop taller killers, but I wanted to find out just how much the height of the killers changed the gameplay. So that's what we're about to do, starting with the Pig. As you can see here, the Pig is obviously shorter than David from both perspectives, and when David points at the Pig, he's quite literally booping the snoot of the Pig. Now we're using the Pig because the Pig's a pretty short killer, and the Huntress is a much taller killer, so we're trying to find a pretty significant difference to see just how big of a change the POV to the camera would be. When we take her and David to the silver tables as a base form of measurement, we can see that when we make David crouch at the corner of the table, we can just barely see underneath David's hairline. And when we look to the back of the wall, that there's about an inch between the top of the table and the top of the baseline brick on the foundation of the wall. Then we switch over to the Father Campbell's Chapel map. And why do we switch to the Father Campbell's Chapel map? It's because there's so many different rocks at so many different heights that we can really run a thorough test and see what we can and can't get away with when it comes to getting blinds off on the Pig using her height. The majority of all these objects we bury the Pig's face into, we can't get any blinds off at all. And she's basically immune to every flashy save within reason, with a few exceptions. One being the Carnival Facehole slot, where she is actually one of the few killers who can be blinded through it. And now we move on to the Huntress. And we start with the perspective of her being much taller than David from both sides, and the fact that when David points at her, he's pointing at her chest. Obviously a clear difference so far as the POV perspective, at least from the Huntress's viewpoint, as David King looked taller than the Pig from the Pig's view, and David King looks much shorter than the Huntress from the Huntress's view. Then when we go to the silver tables, we can see something interesting. We can only see slightly more of David's head, but we can see about 3 inches more of the base block on the wall, being able to actually see the floor of the meat packing plant. So a very insignificant change, and not one that would offer any real benefit to the player at all. And the extra 3 inches we can see on the wall is essentially only an extra inch on your monitor. But things get really interesting when we go back to the Father Campbell's Chapel map to run tests on our blinds on the Huntress. So even though Anna is 2 feet taller, her camera only goes up an inch on your monitor at most. But the hitbox for the survivor to land the blind does go up the whole 2 feet. The blind hitbox is essentially right at the eyes for both the killers. So even though we have several situations on the Huntress's POV where her face is completely covered and she can't see anything at all, we can still absolutely land blinds on her because of the height of her character model and the hitbox for the blind, getting off several blinds on Anna where we couldn't land them on the Pig at all. So that's it. This was a quick video, an answer to the question I got thinking from our other video, the height of the Huntress. Does the killer height affect the POV? And I would have to say yes, it does, but it essentially is only a negative, unfortunately. So that's something very important to keep in mind if you're playing a taller killer. Just know that even if your face is buried in a wall and you can't see them, that doesn't mean you're safe from a flashy save.